So it is chapter number 6, a chapter that we really need to ensure that we finish today. So leadership approaches and what year strategy. So we need to understand leadership trait. We need to understand leadership styles, the leadership skills that you need. Of course, I've really repeated on this severally. I have repeated on this severally. Yes, leadership skills. We have how to formulate an organization's strategic direction, differences between transactional leadership and transformational leadership. These we looked at this in our last class. Conflict resolution mechanisms, ethics in leadership, where we are supposed to be men of high integrity, right? So if I may go quite fast on this, when we talk of leadership, leading as a function, of course, we know, ladies and gentlemen, that leadership is all about having other people follow you, other people following you. You're not using any powers, you're not using any coercion, you're not forcing them. You are simply giving them that that is the direction. And then they are able to follow you. So it's about influencing others to follow your direction as a leader, right? So why is it important for us to have leadership in our organizations? Again, ladies and gentlemen, remember, when we have a proper leadership, number one, we'll always have actions initiated. There are very many organizations where you go and they get things not happening. The moment we have a good leader, we'll say, for example, today, this is how we want our classes to be taught. And some, not some, but all lecturers will be able to listen. So it initiates action. Whenever we have leadership, ladies and gentlemen, motivation, of course, has to be there, right? Of course, this leadership will, of course, give what here guidance at the end of the day. So provision of guidance, creating confidence in these employees, because employees know that we are following Mr. So-and-so, we are following Mrs. So-and-so, right? And we know, even if, for example, we don't really break the ice very well, this person will be able to guide us very well, right? So importance of leadership, we should have proper, in this case here, leadership in our organizations. Ladies and gentlemen, we have this concept of what here? Building a conducive working environment. Coordination between departments. Which now takes me to this very important concept, ladies and gentlemen, what we call the leadership traits, the traits theory, the traits theory, traits theory, traits theory. Remember, traits theory basically talks of what? Traits theory talks of leaders. Leaders are what? Leaders are born. For example, remember the traits theory works very well in the military. In the military, the senior most military, most of them, for example, you get them being what here? Very tall, right? How they speak, pop, 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 loudly, right? So that if you go to the army, and if, for example, you happen to be a pygmy like myself here, it's not bad, right? Someone who can't really shout, then automatically you can't fit in those higher levels of leadership. You can't, for example, be a colonel commanding a station, because who will listen to you? Now, is there anybody who believes in this school of thought? That, there are two schools of thought here. There are those people who will tell you that leaders are born, and others will tell you that leaders are made, perhaps through education, through training. Which school of thought do you guys subscribe to? Do you believe that leaders are naturally born as leaders from the word go, that they inherited some of these genes here from their parents? Is there anybody who believes in something like that? That leaders are born. Mary says, born. Born. They are born. Jerry says they are born. But even at your workplace, there are people you'll be able to look at this at once and be able to straight away know that this person, even if they joined this organization just yesterday, from how they speak, from how they walk, that these guys are gonna be what here? Our leaders in the near future. If that was to be the case, then we will not be having courses like MPAs. We will not be having courses, ladies and gentlemen, in leadership like the one that I'm teaching you here. Trust you me, ladies and gentlemen, most, of course, I know what you guys are talking about. We have the Obamas of this world. We have those leaders for sure who are just meant to become water leaders, but that number is very small. Most of us in this case here, we have been created into leadership through what you train, through training. So for example, through training, I've seen always this, like where I work, somebody comes in this case here when they are very timid. Month number one, these are guys who can't even make a boardroom presentation. They can't present anything to the board. But these guys, once they hit like 3, 4, 5 months, they'll be able to prepare very good, in this case here, what here, PowerPoint slides. They'll come to the board, make a presentation. When the board tries even to shut them down, they'll tell the board, hey, listen to, and they're junior, remember. So meaning that they have really gotten proper leadership skills through what here, training, through training. I strongly believe that leaders are made. Leaders are made. Leaders are made. Because there are so many people, ladies and gentlemen, trust you me, even when you look at some of our leaders that we have in this country, most of them have developed through time. Most of them we know of leaders that some 5 years ago who could not even stand to speak nothing. When you're not able to speak even nothing, then you are the most useless person. But after some time, what happens with them? You must have seen, even your local pastor, if you are a Christian, you must have seen how those guys have grown through what your leadership, through what your training. So a good person here called Jenny is telling me that, you know what, Mwalimu, the training now brings out proper leadership traits that they must have been having when they were born. I'm not so sure of that, debatable, but we shall reach there. But whenever you hear of someone talking of traits theory, ladies and gentlemen, is all about what here? It's all about the concept that leaders are what here? Leaders are born. Leaders are born. That they are naturally, people are naturally born with what here? Good levels of what here? Intelligence. They have simply a drive within them to achieve things, right? They are really motivated and ready to motivate the workers that they are working with to ensure that the company's goals are met. These are guys who are naturally honest, people of high integrity. They have self-confidence, cognitive ability, the ability in this case here to judge, to analyze, right? To conceptualize ideas. People generally who know business, ladies and gentlemen, inside out. In terms of emotions, they are mature. They are mature. They are mature. So things like charisma, creativity, flexibility, etc. So the most important thing that I came to sell to you this evening, ladies and gentlemen, is that under traits theory, you are supposed to know that these are those characteristics that somebody is born with. Somebody is born with. It's quite a bad theory. I don't like it at all, even though I'm seeing most of you really are supporting it here, but I don't like it. Because it says that if you are born a fool, you remain a fool forever. I don't really subscribe to that school of thought because I've seen how people start, right? So, strengths of traits theory. It's naturally a pleasing theory, especially when you look at it in the context of the army. I stayed in the army for some time. And I can tell you, especially for the army, there are people really who are born to become military officers, right? So it's valid as a lot of research has validated the foundation and the base of the theory. It serves as a yardstick against which the leadership traits of an individual can be assessed. So very good for benchmarking. It gives a detailed knowledge and understanding of the leader element in the leadership process. Limitations of this trait theory. There is bound to be some subjectivity, judgment in determining who is regarded as a good leader or successful leader. So when you talk of subjectivity, ladies and gentlemen, what is subjectivity? Subjectivity is just like, for example, if you were to have some two idle judges, let us call them gentlemen here, gentlemen, who, for example, are appointed to become judges in a beauty contest. So beauty contest, for example, here we could be having like two brothers against who? Like 30 sisters. So these two brothers are who and who? Let me select them. I'm not saying, just an example. Let me select them. So I can see John. I can see John, right? I can see James. So James like that. So we'll have in this case here the ladies, of course, in this case here coming with their walk, great styles, high shoes, right? Like that. And then now John will be able to say, for example, Mary is the most beautiful. If John says Mary is the most beautiful, there are very low chances of James saying that Mary is the most beautiful. Why? Because beauty, of course, you guys are aware that beauty, of course, will really depend on who is looking at this lady, right? That is what we call subjectivity. It depends on the subject. Who is looking at, who is doing this analysis? The same case when it comes to this traits theory. Remember these things that you're saying are important characteristic of leadership. You have a Mr. A. Tell this Mr. A here to list all those characteristics. Mr. A will give you A, B, C, D as the very best characteristics which are needed by who? Which are needed for good leadership. And then when you call, for example, another person called B, they'll not give you exactly what A gave you. So it has got a lot of what here? Subjectivity. A lot of subjectivity, something that I would want you to be remembering. A lot of subjectivity, something that I would want you guys to be remembering. Ladies and gentlemen, we have this one here. The list of possible traits tends to be very long. I mean, it's not a list that you can exhaust. It is something, ladies and gentlemen, that you even go right away to be looking at the color of your eyes, right? That you've got very big eyes, for example, you are most likely to scare people, right? You can't be a leader. So those lists, or that list, ladies and gentlemen, could be inexhaustive. You can't exhaust it, right? Right? There is also a disagreement over which traits are the most important for an effective leader. Zeroing on the same concept, zeroing in on the same concept, right? The model attempts to relate physical traits such as height and weight to effective leadership. Most of these factors relate to situational factors. For example, a minimum weight and height might be necessary to perform the tasks of efficiently in a military leadership position. In business organizations, these are not the requirements to be an effective leader. So the most important thing that I would want you to pick, as I told you, of course, you must have started now looking at the past paper questions. You don't be told that here to describe these things as you think. No, there's a way they ask these questions. Yours is basically to pick the general understanding. So conclusion here, we are told the traits approach gives rise to questions whether leaders are born or made, and whether leadership is an art or science. However, these are not mutually exclusive alternatives. Leadership may be something of an art. Remember, an art, you must have special skills here to engage in an art. Application of special skills and techniques. Even if there are certain inborn qualities that make one a good leader, this confidence or these natural talents need encouragement and development. A person is not born with self-confidence. Self-confidence is developed. Honesty and integrity are a matter of personal choice. Motivation to lead comes from within the individual, and the knowledge of business can be acquired. While cognitive ability has its origin partly in genes, it still needs to be developed. None of these ingredients are acquired overnight. They will be acquired over time. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you are to be asked about, describe this statement, leaders are made. 10 marks. What will you tell us about that statement? Describe. Describe means you look at both negative stroke what here, positive. Critique, the same with the critique. You start with the positive and then later on you say nevertheless. So there you have got some work to do later, think along those sides. So qualities of a good leaders, I'll keep on, as of a good leader, keep on always talking about this. You must have vision, that is foresight. You must be intelligent. You must be good at communications. You must be objective in your work. Hii mambo ya mapendeleo hapana. You must know your work, sense of the responsibility, self-confidence, and willpower. We have in this case here the concept of empathy. Empathy quite close to humanist empathy, right? Don't think in this case that those people that you have there are to be taken for granted. No. These are things you must be knowing. This one, ladies and gentlemen, straight away now took us to the leadership styles, where there are 4 leadership styles. We have a leader who is autocratic. An autocratic leader is a dictator. You must be knowing them even from your family context. If your father was the kind of a man who would not listen to you as his children, automatically this person was what? Yeah, autocratic. So autocratic leadership style, in this style of leadership, a leader has complete command and hold over their employees' team. The team cannot put forward their views, even if they are best for the team's or organizational interests. They cannot criticize or question the leader's way of getting things done. The leader himself gets the things done. The advantage, of course, of this style is that it leads to speedy decision-making and a greater productivity under leaders' supervision. Drawbacks of this leadership style are that it leads to greater employee absenteeism and turnover. This leadership style works only when the leader is best in performing, or when the job is monotonous, unskilled and routine in nature, or where the project is short-term and risky. So advantages: time spent on making crucial decisions can be reduced. Chain of command can be clearly emphasized, because under autocracy, we'll have to know who is who. Mistakes in the implementation of plans are really reduced, because the manager said do it this way and you have to follow the plan. Using authoritarian leadership style creates consistent results. Very true. Disadvantages: a very strict leadership style can sometimes lead to employee rebellion. It kills employee creativity and innovation. It reduces group synergy and collaboration. Group input is reduced drastically. Authoritarian leadership increases employee turnover rate. Actually, this is the biggest disadvantage. And then now, ladies and gentlemen, we have the freestyle, the Kipaki style, where basically I delegate and trust my managers 100%. I know I've been able to put these people in this particular position, and then automatically we shall be able to trust whatever they tell us. This, I think, is the style of my employer. My employer, once he gives you like a department, like a region, and tells you oversee that region, there is no way you will ever interfere. He really believes in what you're doing. So here, the leader totally trusts their employees to team to perform the job themselves. He just concentrates on the intellectual, rational aspect of his work and does not focus on the management aspect of his work. The team stroke employees are welcome to share their views and provide suggestions which are best for organizational interests. This leadership style works only when the employees are skilled, loyal, experienced, and intellectual. Like myself, of course, I don't expect to make so many errors in what I do. That is why my boss is able to trust me. Advantages: experienced employees can take advantage of their competence and experience. Innovation and creativity is highly valued. Delegative leadership creates a positive work environment. Disadvantages: command responsibility is not very well defined. At times, you may even tend, in this case here, to underrate your boss. Delegative leadership at times could create difficulty in adapting what change, because you're giving people so much in terms of powers, right? It is decentralized type of management. So if something like Corona, for example, was to hit us, before these managers here team up and agree, reach a consensus, it becomes, in this case here, not an easy thing. It's not like when, for example, we have an autocratic leader like Museveni. They come and say, this is what I want. Things move. Things move. Then we have the democratic participative leadership style. The leaders here invite and encourage the team members to play an important role in the decision-making process, though the ultimate decision-making power rests with the leader. Right? So this is the same as the consultative model under Ashridge. Right? We are consulting, we are asking questions, we're involving these guys. But at the end of the day, we know it is us as leaders who have the final say. The leader guides the employees on what to perform and how to perform, while the employees communicate to the leader the experience and the suggestions, if any. The advantages of this leadership style are that it leads to satisfied, motivated, and more skilled employees. It leads to an optimistic work environment and also encourages creativity. This leadership style has the only, its major drawback is time consuming, because maybe we want to hear what this person says, we want to hear what this other person says. So we have there advantages. It increases employees' motivation and job satisfaction, encourages use of employee creativity because of the initiatives, because of the Henry Fayol's 14 principles. There is an I somewhere which talks of initiatives, involve these people. A participative leadership style helps in the creation of a strong team. That one I agree. High level of productivity can be achieved. Decision-making processes become time-consuming, right? This second point is not very clear. Don't want to pick it at all. Communication failures can sometimes happen. Communication failures, because you are getting information from so many quarters. Security issues can arise because of transparency in information sharing. Yes. So like, for example, us, when we are doing our KPIs, we have to put, for example, like if it is this product we sold, how much revenue do we get, vis-a-vis, for example. So you have to put everything there, and you're required here to involve everybody. You're required to involve everybody. So in this case here, you, of course, will get so many mamas around the table, people saying, me, I don't earn this much, and yet I'm the one who is putting in a lot of efforts here. A problem created by what here? Trying to listen to employees too much. Poor decisions can be made if the employees are what here unskilled. You can imagine leaving somebody who is unskilled to make some decisions in the organization. Then automatically you will be, ladies and gentlemen, doomed. Bureaucratic leadership is very similar to autocracy, but under bureaucratic leadership, remember here, we are basically going to obey rules and regulations and policies of the company 100%. Here, the leaders strictly adhere to the organizational rules and the policies. Also, they make sure that employees' team also strictly follow the rules. So remember, this bureaucratic leadership is Max Weber's model. Do you guys still remember Max Weber? Max Weber. Do you remember Max Weber? 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 Do you remember Max Weber, the father of bureaucracy? You don't even need an employer, a CEO up there to be a dictator. No, a bureaucratic organization is that organization that believes in rules and regulations to govern the company. Rules and regulations to govern the company. And of course, the concept of what here? Impersonal relationships. Impersonal relationships. So even if you're working for an organization that is as a husband and who? Waifu. And the husbandee comes and tells you, you know what, my wife, I want 5 million from this, even if it's your church. Ladies and gentlemen, and you are applying these particular Max Weber principles, then you should be able to say as a wife, you say, no, here is not about allegiance to you. My allegiance is to our church. What does the church say whenever we want, in this case, here to withdraw cash from the kitty of the church? But for instance, we must involve some board. So if that is the case, even if you're going to chase away from me away from home, I would rather in this case here bite the bullet. That is what we call bureaucracy. And bureaucracy has seen some organizations in this case here do wonderful things. Last time I gave you an example of Catholic Church. Look at what, if every organization, church organization that we have in Kenya, including mosques also they do quite a lot. If they were to follow, if churches were to follow what, for example, what mosques are doing and what, ladies and gentlemen, Catholic is doing, trust you me, would be living in a very changed community. I mean, go to Catholic Church. These guys here are running the best schools in Kenya. They're running some of the best hostels in Kenya. But we know that there are some other churches which are rich. But in this case here, because they don't have any rules, they don't have any regulations that they are following, and if they have them, they only exist on the shelves, right? They are not able to do even nothing, right? Apart from seeing the pastor and whoever driving on big machines. I mean, what else have they done? If they had a good rule saying, for example, from whatever that we raise in terms of our offerings, 50% has to go to some capital expenditure. We must build a school. We must look at what we call sustainability. Then we'll be going very far. But the most important thing, ladies and gentlemen, is under bureaucratic, we must state down some rules and regulations. When I get my salary, this is my budget. So if I'm able to strictly go as per that budget, then we are straight away exercising bureaucracy. So among us, the four, if you look at your home, which model do you apply there as a mother, as a father? When you look at your home, you know, at times we make a very bad assumption that people who come for the evening classes are big people, they are married. So I want to believe that that assumption is applicable here, apart from maybe one or two cases. But most of us are married. Is that not true? Most of us have families. Your topic is on yes, topic. But hata kama una wewe hata kumbuka ya babako. Alikuwa anatumia which model? Oscar, you shall overcome, don't worry. I'll pray for you. Combination of leadership styles, yes. I like that. This is a very good class. Great. Ida, you shall overcome. Don't worry. We shall pray. But unless you are single by choice. Depends on the situation. Or sound is not clear. What do you mean? My sound is not clear. Okay. Just a minute. How about now? Good. How I wish you guys raised it early. Now we are going to produce a very poor video. The first few minutes are going to be very poor, which is very bad, but we shall overcome. Or you raised and I never read. Does it mean that I'm a dictator as well? Does it mean that I don't listen to you people? We shall overcome. Tells, we shall overcome. I'm so sorry. Helicopter. Yes. Now, ladies and gentlemen, from there now, I will be able to go straight away to what we call the theories of leadership. And the theories of leadership really have got nothing much here, because already you guys have gone through the Ashridge's management model. So the most important under Ashridge management model is for you to see the 4 styles. I normally look at them as styles of communicating. So we have those leaders who tell, those leaders who consult, those leaders who sell, those leaders who join, who bring in others. So tells, as I've told you here, these are autocratic leaders. They simply go ahead and tell these employees as things should be done. And there is no debate about it. You have to do it, whether you like it or not, And then we have the selling, which is the persuasive option. So here, basically, okay, for tells, I'll give an order. For sell, I'll give an order and an explanation for me to be able to buy in. Right? And then we have consult. So for consulting, ladies and gentlemen, here for sure, I'll have to involve you. As my employees. I would want to hear your opinions here and there. I would want to take in your views before I do any implementation, because the final decision making is normally left to me. And then we have joins. So here basically is where we are making a joint a joint decision. It's a democratic style. Which now takes me to the next model, which is called Blake and Morton's managerial grid. This managerial grid is so important to me. I'm able to remember this managerial grid very, very vividly. So basically, ladies and gentlemen, what we shall do is to have our grids under Blake's model. Under Blake's model, we shall have our grid. So we shall have our grid here. So we have managers or leaders who are people-centered. The ones who are people-centered, and then we have others who are task-centered. And then we have 9 boxes here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Right? So we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Same case here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then now we have these boxes. Those boxes like that. Very important boxes. No, 4 should be with 4. This one here should have gone there. And then we have 3 and 3. Should have gone like that. And then we have 4 with 4. Should have gone like that. And then of course we have 5 with 5. How I wish somebody was throwing this. 6 with 6. They're boxes basically. Then we have 7 with 7. These are boxes basically. Then we have 8 with 8. These are boxes basically. And then now we have 9 with 9. They're boxes. Square boxes. Out of these boxes, we have 5 types of managers. So we have the manager who is basically here. Almost 0. 0 in terms of tasks. He doesn't even know what is expected of him as a leader. And then 0 in terms of being people-centered. This reminds me something very, very a joke. It's a joke. Please don't take me seriously. That we have got people in this world we call endomorphs. Is there anybody who has ever heard of an endomorph? Endomorph. Anybody who has ever heard of an endomorph? Please talk to me. I don't want to go the helicopter way. Endomorph. This is basically anybody who is more than 85 kilograms, like myself. I'm almost here. So I'm an endomorph. So they say that people who are quite like myself here, ladies and gentlemen, that for survival, we are naturally happy. Naturally happy. Because I mean, how would we get other people working for us? We are naturally happy. And that is why most of us are what here? People-centered. People-centered. Now there is an opposite of this. You know, there is a middle gray area there. There is an opposite of this. Unapata mtu akona hii, unaona hii. Unless siko ubaya. Hata sitawambia jina yake, lakini sasa, what do you know about these people? Siko, tunaongea generally. Don't take me badly. Are watu Asira, are they really people-centered? Asira. Hawataka kuniongelesha. Hawataka kuniongelesha. At a height, yes. At a height, yes. Those are the traits that I'm trying to look at, right? Which you must talk about. Which you must talk about, yes. Because now we are studying these traits like that, right? They get angry very fast. Very fast. Kisirani. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. Now, if you guys have been able to draw something like this, yes, we shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. So it's good for you to know, like myself, I'm short. So it's very important for me to know that at times you could easily be angered so that we know how to work on our anger. It's good. It's good. It's good. It's good. So I hope you are able to see my board very well. So we have the impoverished leader. We have up here the one who excels mostly in terms of people. Is people-centered 100%. We call such leaders country club leaders. Country club leaders. Then we have somebody who is stuck at the middle there, middle of the road. We call them middle of the road leaders. But now the people that I love most are the people who are able to combine between people-centric, they are people-centric, and at the same time, they are really putting their fingers on the tasks to be done. Task-centered. These guys here, we call them team leaders. Team leaders. Team leaders. And this is what I would want you guys to be doing. I would want you to start learning the people skills. If we have got attitudes, we need to seriously work on them, because we must be good to people for us to become leaders. And we must be able to really know how to run our tasks. For example, ladies and gentlemen, if you are here and you do not know how to especially make use of a team's calendar, then you are not very good in terms of tasks. Because at a team's calendar, when I get an email which has got a date, a deadline, just pick that email, put it on Teams. Straight away, it allocates and be able to send me reminders, because I must be able to place my fingers on the tasks that I have in my institution. So have you been able to draw these things, ladies and gentlemen? Is there anything which is not clear that would want me to explain further? Or anything that you're not able to see? That silence is deafening. That silence is deafening. Yes, at number one. Number one is the impoverished. Impoverished. This guy knows nothing. Knows nothing. This guy knows nothing. Impoverished. Knows nothing. He doesn't know even his tasks. And in terms of people-centered, nothing. Do you have in this case here some leaders? Some leaders, ladies and gentlemen, in your organization that would place here? Good for nothing leaders. Leaders. Do you have anybody in your company? Don't tell us the name, but do you have anybody in your company who is here? Don't tell us the name, but don't tell us the company. But do you have anybody who is almost here? Ida, have you ever worked with that gentleman? Have you ever worked with that gentleman? Impoverished mentally. So impoverished, the manager is lazy, showing little interest in either staff or work. He's a useless guy, good for nothing. And then the country club, like the golf clubs, if you go to the golf club, ladies and gentlemen, most of the leaders that we have there are not very good golfers. They're not very good golfers. They don't understand that particular task of golfing, but they're able to push their teams, shouting from nowhere. Now we are at hole number 18, right? But at the end of the day, these guys not even holding anybody's club, right? Right? They're basically the country club leaders, very good at people skills, very good at people skills. But the tasks here, ladies and gentlemen, you'll go, for example, and get a CEO, for example, of EABL. That lady, she's not a mechanical engineer. She does not understand anything to do with brewing. So basically, it means that that lady is a perfect example of who? A country club leader. Right? The task is zero, but she's able to push people towards doing wonders. Like during these Corona times, ladies and gentlemen, EABL, of course, we thought that they were to make massive losses because most clubs in this case here have been closed. Right? But the same breweries will be surprised that they recorded reduced revenues of say 3% or 4%. So it means that the leaders that are up there, ladies and gentlemen, are so strong in terms of pushing people to achieve the company's what year? Company's goals. So we call them country club leaders. Country club what year? Country club leaders. Country club leaders. Country club leaders. Country club leaders. So country club leader, the manager is attentive to staff needs and has developed satisfying relationships. However, there is little attention paid to achieving what year? To task, basically, not even achieving results. To task, to accomplishing the tasks. And then we have now what we are calling the task management, the task-centered leaders. Task-centered. To them, these are autocrats. To them, it is the end that justifies the means. So long as we reach there, it doesn't matter how we reached. Right? Even if it means that there is an employee who has to carry a whole donkey. Right? So long as our tasks are done. So task management, almost total consideration on achieving results, people needs are virtually ignored. And then we have middle of the road, middle of the road, middle of the road. So on the middle of the road, what do we have? Adequate performance through balancing or switching between necessity to get out to work with the team morale. team morale. So basically here at the middle of the road, or the dampened pendulum, ladies and gentlemen, we are looking at striking a compromise between the task and what here people issues. Don't push people so much, right? Don't think about the tasks only. No, we need to strike a compromise. We need to strike a compromise, and don't forget the team leader. The last one is the team leader. The last one here is the team leader. High work accomplishment through leading committed people who identify themselves with the organizational aims. The managerial grid was intended as an appraisal and management development tool. It recognizes that a balance is required between concern for task and concern for people, and that a high degree of both is possible and highly effective at the same time. Ladies and gentlemen, could you be kind and very honest to me and tell me, from how you are able to picture your own management style at your workplace, where do you fall? For those of you who are managers, without hiding anything from me, will you try looking at yourself now as a manager at your workplace, or even as a manager in your home? But I don't want to look at it from the home perspective, because I mean, what tasks are there really? And again, remember, home, you're not leading a team. No. Home will not be very good. For those of you who are working, where are you? Where are you? If, for example, you're in charge of our accounts, are you that leader who is impoverished of ideas, poor in terms of ideas, poor in terms of managing people? Are you the type of manager who will always go striking the we shall overcome. We shall overcome. At home, MD Jesse, I don't know whether it's a he or a she, impoverished. Perhaps this is the kind of person, ladies and gentlemen, at home, they can't even assist kids to do homework. So meaning them and their tasks, they are basically worlds what year apart. Right now with CBC, a good parent, I need to work on people skills. Middle of the road, I've got 50% of people skills, 50% of what year tasks. I'm able to execute my tasks very well. Thank you very much, Irene. Great. Most of these students have kept quiet and they don't know. Perhaps I was looking at a particular thing for me to be able to, right? We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. So we shall take a break of how many minutes? 5 minutes. When we come back, we'll be able to look at something very interesting. 5 minutes. Jenny says a team leader. A team leader. Right? So a break of exactly 5 minutes. That means that we come back at 9:25. Please take a serious break. If you have some rope to skip like 10 to 20, please. Thank you. What we call the contingency theories. Those theories that tell us that it's possible for you to have managers, and I'll finish exactly at this point. That theory which tells us that it's possible for you to have a manager who performs in situation 1, but take the same manager and put them in another set of circumstances in a different company, then that manager automatically cannot perform. The leadership is highly dependent on certain factors. It is a situational model. Now look at, for example, my colleague Kipngetich. I taught with Kipngetich for so long at Visions, And of course, that guy has been able to climb the hierarchy up outside in the corporate ladder. Some time back, he was the managing director of which company? Managing director of KWS. And he performed so well there. The same guy in this case here was brought to Uchumi supermarket. Instead of Uchumi supermarket, in this case here, having to see its fortunes going up, the fortunes went down, despite these guys here having been brought in as the research status, as the dream team of Uchumi supermarket. They took the thing down. He's moved to Equity Bank as the operations manager. I'm not saying that it's bad, but again, I don't hear him so much really. Perhaps it's because James Mwangi is domineering, right? But the concept is, these are people that I know. There are people, many people, like this governor, the governor of Nyeri who died, who can remind us his name? This guy, governor, first governor of Nyeri who died, who is good in history. Yeah, Gachagua, yes. Gachagua also, yes, was my colleague also in the teaching fraternity. He went to several institutions and he could not really hack it. But he went to Nyeri County. I mean, the guy did wonders before he died, right? So leadership is quite circumstantial. Yes, what was Nyeri was Ilala, isn't it? It's quite circumstantial. Is contingent, and that is why I would want to go through the last model, before you tell me that Mwalimu, even myself, to make you at last, even myself, there are situations I used to be very good, but in some other situations I've really failed miserably, So contingency approaches to leadership, in essence, contingency theory sees effective leadership as being dependent on a number of variable or contingent factors. There is no one right way to lead that fits all situations. The ability of a manager to be a leader and to influence the subordinate work group depends on the particular situation and will vary from case to case. Gillen leadership skills suggests that using only one leadership style is a bit like a stopped clock. It will be right twice a day, but the rest of the time, it will be inaccurate to varying degrees. Leadership need to interact with their team in different ways, in different situations. This is what we mean by leadership style. Leaders need to adapt their style to the needs of the team and the situations. This is the basis of contingency approaches, such as the fielders are psychologically close and psychologically distant styles. So we have the fielders model, and then we have what we call the John Adair's action-centered leadership model. We look at today, we look at the fielder. Fielder kama kagari, kuna kagari kanatonga fielder ka strong. Kwanza ukipata kala ka 1800cc, si kabaya. Fielder ka strong, fielder. Perhaps the leading advocate of contingency theory. I hope I'm recording, right? So we have here, perhaps the leading advocate of contingency theory is Fielder. He carried out extensive research on the nature of leadership and found that people become leaders, partly because of their own attributes and partly because of their situation. He studied the relationship between style of leadership and the effectiveness of the work group and identified two types of a leader. We have psychologically distant managers, the PDMs. These are those guys, ladies and gentlemen, who will be able to formalize, who will be able to come up with structures. But in terms of emotions, in terms of interpersonal relationships, they detach themselves 100%. Psychologically distant managers maintain distance from their subordinates. They formalize their roles and relationships between themselves and their superiors and the subordinates. They formalize. It's formal, but they choose to be withdrawn and reserved in their interpersonal relationships with the organization, despite having good interpersonal skills. They prefer formal consultation methods rather than seeking the opinions of their staff informally. PDMs judge subordinates on the basis of performance and are primarily task-oriented. Fielder found that leaders of the most effective work groups tend to be PDMs. He also argued that leadership style adopted is relatively stable and a feature of a leader's personality that could therefore be predicted. And then now we have the psychologically close managers. These are closer to their subordinates. They do not seek to formalize roles and relationships. They like informality. They are more concerned about maintaining good human relationships at work than ensuring that the tasks are carried out efficiently. They prefer informal contacts to regular formal staff meetings. Ladies and gentlemen, again, I'm coming back to you. Which model here do you practice at your workplace? Is it PDM, where you are very distant from your subordinates, or where you are close to them, where you prefer informality? Some of the guys that I work with at my place of work are white men. And I can tell you some of these white men are quite, they know how to keep their distance. They know how to keep their distance. They like formality. So when you approach them with an issue, they always tell you, put whatever you're telling me on email, right? So even when they smile at times, the smiles are what here, plastic smile. Do you know what a plastic smile is? Oscar, is there anybody who has ever given you a plastic smile in your lifetime, Oscar? Cyrus, right? Right. So they really know how to keep distance. They know how to keep distance. They know how to keep distance. They are never close. They're never close in this case here with who? Of course, they'll give you the right. They'll tell you, for example, you're in charge of that department, right? But they'll also at the same time try to keep what here? Formality. They can never be very close because they know. When you are also very close, when you get very close with these employees, ladies and gentlemen, familiarity breeds what here? Breeds contempt. Mzoeane sana. Nimeona jina ikisema ako very close. Mzoeane sana. Kuzoeana kazi haitafanyika. So as much as you would want to be involving them, even in those meetings, let's have formal meetings. Let's, in this case here, avoid this thing of grapevine communication with our staff. Wewe kila saa unataka kusikia maoni yao kila saa. Huyu ananiongea namna gani? Huyu ananiongea namna gani? International disaster, ladies and gentlemen. For the remaining parts now, I'll be able to do some video for you. So that now when we meet in our next class, which will be tomorrow, I would wish to go to a different topic. This topic, unfortunately, topic sana. I should go to a different topic. But again, remember that case study questions, I'm always giving you cases. So as we progress, I'm counting like case study questions, case study topic is like correct. So after this, there are a few topics short like management, marketing management, which will be able to really go through over quite fast. Otherwise, it has been a pleasure hosting you tonight. See you tomorrow. For those of you